So on to our final day, day 8 of our cal, and also going beyond the cal to what you can actually add in extra to take this even further. So here's where I got to yesterday. I have a gargoyle with all the features sewn on, apart from really the mouth, and then tails and any extras like wings. So when it comes to the mouth, when I first designed Phillipe the Gargoyle, a few people, when he was released, queried the fact that he did not have an open mouth. Now, this is because technically a gargoyle needs to have water passing through it to be a gargoyle. So a lot of people requested an open mouth. Now, the reason why I didn't do him with an open mouth is because in my mind, he's very grumpy. So he needed a grumpy smile. But when I'm not looking, he might indeed open his mouth for the water to gargle through. Hence him becoming a gargoyle. But just so you know, for the technicality, because I know a lot of you out there enjoy this kind of detail and research, if you decide not to pop an open mouth on yours, technically it would be a grotesque. So an ornamental decoration on the side of a building that doesn't have water pass through it. But if you decide to go for this new pattern for the open mouth, then it is absolutely a gargoyle. So there's your choice in terms of how you want to finish it. This is just like crocheting across the surface of the fabric. Just a little feature that some of you might not have seen before. On the original Phillipe the Gargoyle, I did actually embroider 2 nostrils there. It's quite a nice little feature that you can add on. You could always add those on to this new nose if you wanted to, just by embroidering 2 little black holes in there underneath those MBs. But what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go for an altogether slightly different mouth on this final one. I'm going to give him a bit of a big grumpy bottom lip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch in over here. Now, as a right-handed person, I'm going to slip stitch in over here. And I'm going to use a series of different stitches. So I'm going to do a double crochet. Then I'm going to do a half treble. Then I'm going to go in for 1, 2 trebles, a double treble, two trebles, a half treble, and then a DC at the end. And what I just want to show you is how easy it is to customize different shapes, smiles, and expressions onto your gargoyles at this stage. So that pattern that I've just done there, what I did is I double crocheted, half trebled, 2 trebles, a double treble, 2 trebles, a half treble, and a double crochet again. And I've just put a little upturned mouth on like that. That's a different pattern again to anything that you've got so far. So be creative. This is another point where I really want to kind of throw that creativity over to you, is don't feel like you just have to go with the ones that are stated in the pattern either. You could decide to go even further and get creative. You could even add a couple little teeth on here if you wanted to. So I've popped that mouth in place there just to give you another little extra pattern to go with your others if you want to go for that little smile like that. Your choices really for your mouths are, yeah, straighter ones. I'm using similar techniques to this, but just straight line stitches. You can slip stitch them in. The open mouth one, you actually chain and then you crochet around that chain. So through the central hole to create a circle that you then actually crochet on. Just going to neaten up that end that I've done there to make that as tidy as possible. So that mouth is in position. Right, then let's talk about tails. So if you've got yarn left, and this is all going to be the big if, because how much yarn you'll have left is going to now be dependent upon the choices that you have made so far. If you've got yarn left, you obviously can go for a tail. And if the kind of length of tail that you want to make will depend on how much yarn you have left. But if you just wanted to make a straightforward, straight tail like this, this would just be 6 in a ring. If you wanted to close off one end, and then just keep double crocheting those 6 stitches until your yarn runs out. This is one that's in Phillipe the Gargoyle, so you'll have that pattern with the kind of arrow shaped end, and I've actually used a contrast colour there on the tip. So I've got a nice contrasting feature, which I'm now also going to work into the toenails of my gargoyle and also bring that colour into my wings. So if you are adding a tail, all you need to do is turn it over and run up the back, bearing in line, getting in the middle of those two legs and then up that central back point and sew that into place. And now let's talk about wings. So this was the big one that I wanted to make sure you had lots of different options for wings in your pattern. So what you've actually got are a few different options. So the original gargoyle wings use front post, back post, which I'm going to show you here as a technique. And what you're doing is you're actually doing them in the round to begin with, and then you break to rows, which is what creates them. Then you work the points onto the bottom. So they're the shortest. They use about 25 grams of yarn. If you are kind of weighing your yarn quantities or deciding what to use. But again, you can use contrasting. So you can put these spikes on in a different colour on the bottom if you want to bring them in to this design. You can then extend those as long as you want them to be. So this would be double the length to go this one. And here they're actually tripled. So you can make really big full length kind of classic shaped gargoyle wings with that pattern if you want to, subject to how much yarn you've got or how much time you want to put into those wings. But I didn't want to leave it there. So you've also got some kind of dragon shaped wings in your pattern, and you've also got some more rounded shaped wings that you could choose to add on. But I'm going to go one step further on mine. I'm actually going to wing all the gap between the arms and the body on mine. So I'm going to do it more like how bat wings would be attached. Now, this is the same technique that you'd use if you were actually using the dragon wings to go between the two things. So I am actually going to use that pattern as my basis so that you can also see the technique that you'd use to do that. Now, because I'm going contrasting, I'm going to grab my mushroom yarn in order to fill in these wings. So to do a webbed wing, and this goes again for the dragon wings that you've got on your pattern, it would be the same thing, the same technique that you'd be doing, but between the two sections of prongs. What I'm actually going to do is crochet backwards and forwards in between the body and the arm. So what you need to do is slip stitch in like that. And I'm actually going to chain 2 and then slip stitch in to his arm underneath like that. And then what we're doing is we're moving backwards and forwards, and we're always increasing at the beginning of our return. So we turn, we're going to double crochet 2, and I'm actually going to go into the hole initially. So I'm going to DC 1 and 2 effectively into the hole under his arm like that. Then I'm going to slip stitch into his body, turn again, and now I'm going to start to actually crochet into the stitches. So when we turn, we're going to go 1 and 2 in and in, and then we slip stitch along the arm, then turn 1 and 2. So we're always increasing after the turn. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into the body. And we're aiming for the leg down there is what I'm going to do. So turn. And that's all you're going to do is move between the two pieces like that, increasing after the turn. So then as you continue working that wig to as big as you want it to be, it'll basically grow in on that inside arm, and then you'll be doing the same thing on the other side. And this is what I guess I really wanted to show you all with this pattern, is I was really hoping that you'd all get very creative with it, and we're going to see some very different gargoyles towards the end. So I'm going to have to go away and do this for a while to obviously fill those wings in. So I'm just going to stop for a second, and I'm actually going to show you how to do the more traditional ribbed gargoyle wings. So you've got those as a technique. So what you want to do, if you want to go for these extendable wings, is start with your 6 stitches in a ring. So do your 6 double crochets in a ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you're going to treble 2 into the next stitch 6 times to end 12. So you're going to treble. So to treble, you go round the hook in the stitch, yarn over, and then through twice. So that's a treble. So round the hook in the stitch, yarn over to the point where you've got your 3 loops, and then through the first 2 and then through the second one. So that's 2 trebles into the first stitch. So then 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. So I've got 12 trebles in my circle. Then what I would recommend is putting in a stitch marker as per usual at this point, so you know where that ends, like that. And then what you're going to be doing is front posting and back posting trebles. So this is like creating a crocheted rib. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So what you need to do, first we've got a front post treble. So you go round your hook, because we're going to be working a treble stitch. But rather than going into the stitch, which would be here, normally if we were just going to treble into the next stitch, we're actually going to do a front post treble. So what that means is we need to be going around the treble underneath. And if it's a front post, we're going to be pulling it forwards to the front. If it's a back post, we're going to be coming up the back and pushing it backwards away from us. So first we're going to do a front post treble. So yarn round the hook and then in through the front, around the back of that treble. So you pull it forward like that, yarn over, and then finish off your treble. So that's a front post. And then we're going to do 2 back posts. So round, you're going to come underneath, up through, and push that treble backwards like that to do 1. And we're actually doing an increase. So what you need to do is do the same thing again around that same post, because we need to be turning 1 treble into 2 in order for our wings to grow out from this point. So we've done 1 front post treble, 2 back post trebles around the same stitch, then in again, and 1 front post treble, then in and 2 back post trebles but around the same stitch, so in and 1 front post, then 2 back posts around the same one, then on your next round, so once you get back round, pull that stitch marker up with you so you can see exactly where you are. And then we're going to be following the same rhythm. So do you see how you can see your front post trebles here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're those ribbed posts that have come out the front. So we're going to be following the same pattern. So what we're doing this time is we need to front post off front post. So in and front post that one. And then we're going to back post 1 and then increase back post. We're going to back post our second back post like that, and then increase on that 3rd one, but again in back post like we did last time. So front post and then in, and back post and in, and back post again. So you'll be carrying on with that pattern and you'll be increasing out until you get up to 36 stitches. And this is a free download, so you can go and get this download. It's an extra that comes with the extra PDF for this cowl. So carry on using that pattern, and then what you're going to do after you've done round 6, you'll get up to 32 stitches. You'll be front posting treble for one whole round, and then you'll be working rows. And what this is when you first start, you'll be doing this circle that we've just been doing. So these are your front posts. You see they're nice and obvious. These are your back posts here as you do the increases out, and then you actually move to going in rows, which is leaving these nice holes at the back, and that becomes the back of the wings. So they're intended to look like a pair of folded up wings like that. This is where you'll be doing those front posts, back posts, but in rows, so you're turning around and going in the opposite direction rather than round and round. So you make 2 of these and then you sew them together like that to become the set of wings. Obviously you can work the spikes on the bottom, and this is using all the different lengths of stitches to work the spikes on the bottom, which is the same technique that we actually use to do the claws. So the final thing I'm going to show you on this cowl, to give you the final kind of building block for customizing, is how to add the claws on as well. So within your pattern, you'll have lots of different options for different lengths of claws in order to add on afterwards. The main thing that you need to bear in mind whenever you're adding claws on retrospectively is right side and wrong side. Now, what I mean by that is your claws will naturally curve across the top to curl up your right side. So say you want your claws to curve downwards like a toenail would across the bottom of a toe. As a right-handed crocheter, you need to be crocheting like this, looking at the tip of the toe, slip stitching in on the right-hand side and moving across to the left. Whereas a left-handed crochet, you'll be going the other way. I'll show you what I mean. So slip stitching on the right, chain the number of stitches. Again, you've got lots of different toenail patterns in your pattern. And generally what you'll be doing to do the claws is you'll be using different lengths of stitches. So that was a slip stitch. There's another slip stitch. Here's a DC, a half treble, and a treble. So I've used a few different lengths stitches there. And then do you see how this naturally curves downwards over the bottom? That's because the wrong side curves downwards like that. It curls up on the right side. So I'd slip stitch in, and that would give me a claw moving in that direction like that, which looks really good in slight contrasting. So I've gone for mushroom contrast here. Whereas if you wanted to go for claws that curved upwards, so say, you know what, I might do them on here. Let's go for something a little bit different on here. So say you wanted to go for a claw that curved upwards, you would move right to left, but with the toe the opposite way around like this. 2, 3, 4, and then work back down that chain. So I've done 2 slips and a half treble there, and then slip stitch in onto the other side. And what that would give me would be a claw that would curve upwards like that, away from the end of the toe rather than towards it. So just bear in mind your right side and your wrong side as you are putting your claws on as well. That's exactly the same methods that you're going to be using for putting things on, like the spikes on the bottom of the wings. Also, if you do decide to go for the kind of Mohican option, that's exactly the same techniques that I've used there too. I found that when I was having a little look at gargoyles, a lot of them have those kind of almost wave effects carved into the stone for their hair. And so that's what I really wanted to capture there, is to give you that little motif that you could add on in different places. So for the pattern for this, again, is in that free download. Exactly the same techniques that I've just shown you there for doing the claws. Just making sure that your wrong side is facing the way that you want to curve it away from, because then it moves really nicely backwards in a mohawk from the top of the head. Right, so I'm going to go away. I've still got quite a couple more hours, I think, probably finishing off my gargoyle to the end. So I'm going to go and give a full manicure on this one. I might also do a little bit more slip stitch detailing. So things like that, just to give you a few more extra creative ideas on the end of this cowl. What you could always do is, say where I've done that mouth, I could always slip stitch a contrasting edge into the top of it too, which would just make it stand out even more prominently from the rest of my gargoyle. So especially now I'm bringing in this second colour. Now I'm going to go in and fill in all of my wings too, and I will share my completed gargoyle with you later today. So I'm going to go away and do my few hours finishing mine off. Wishing you a very happy Halloween. Please share your gargoyle pictures. I'll be sharing them all to Instagram so that you can see them all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that the techniques in general have been very useful for you as well, so that you've learned a lot of different techniques to be a bit more creative, going that extra mile with the pattern and feeling confident to customise things a little bit more to make it very much your own.